This is Joe,
Michelle,
Melissa,
and Shannon
with More Than a Sniff, where we talk about everything dog.
from training to nutrition,
from behavior modification to grooming, from vet visits to dog parks.
From getting to know us to having guests. Today we're going to talk about dog poop, and what triggers our topic sometimes is just stuff that we have to deal with every day, and so I feel like it's something that everybody deals with their dog is dog poop. And how do you know it's normal? How do you know when you should make a change? How do you know when you should head into the vet? And what all that dog poop tells us about your dogs. And so one fascinating thing with all the dogs that's been at my house is we've been on overload poop patrol. And I know whose poop belongs to who. And even though everybody that's been here has, for the most part, been on the exact same food as all of mine, but the way that they digest and the way they process things is completely different. And something that I add to everybody's food here is coconut oil. And I had run out and I hadn't been to the store to get it in 48 hours. And it definitely, the poop changed from being very firm, very solid, very poop-ish to back to being formed but soft. And so let's talk a little bit about poop and what kind of poop that we see, and maybe some of the changes or some of the suggestions that we have overall, and how you kind of gauge even our own dogs on how we make changes to their diets and life impacts their poop. So Shannon, you've had a lot of random dogs over the last 2 weeks, and so just kind of described the poop that you have been dealing with over the last couple weeks.
So I have a lot of poop experience, I guess you could say, from working at the vet too. Like, you just see all kinds of poop, you know. So, I mean, personally, I like a more solid, good-formed poop. And I like it to be proportional to the size of the dog, you know. So if the poos are too large or too small, I consider that to be a problem. But, like, some poos are just, like, more gross. Really, really gross. And then you're like, what is going on with this dog? Why is your poo more gross than it should be? Right? So that's the thing I notice is the level of gross and the level of how soft it is are my number 1 and 2 things that I notice, I guess, about the poo, because I like a more firm poo.
So Melissa, when you go on consultations and clients, do you is poop part of the conversation?
yeah.
And what have you found fascinating with the conversations of their dog's poop?
Some people have absolutely zero idea
Uh-huh.
what their dog's poop is like.
Yeah.
Or they'll ask like one kid, like, oh, how is like Buddy's poop?
Yeah.
And the kid's like, I don't know. But some people like just really don't pay attention to it, which is kind of concerning to me.
Yeah.
Personally, because like that, the dog's poop says a lot about how they are overall.
Right. Right.
And those health problems could be manifesting behaviorally, and I do want to know that. So that is troubling. And on that same line, there are these companies that will come pick up your dog's poop for you. That is such a scary idea for me.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm boarding dogs, I always go and check my dog's poop.
Yep.
Because I want to know,
Right.
like, okay, something is up.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
the smell is different. I didn't change the food. What other
Right.
factors? So
Right.
that is a big point of conversation is your dog's digestive system healthy? And
Yeah.
because that says a lot overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's crazy what, and maybe because we're in it all day long and we really pay attention to it more. I don't know. But, it's understanding the routine and the rhythm of your dog as well, as far as how they and when they poop and what triggers it. Michelle, we were earlier on talking about, one of your clients that's just never had really a good, firm, solid poop. And I know Melissa's had a chance to walk him as well, but over the last 2 weeks that you were gone, I had him out, and I didn't have One day we had not cow pie-ish, but it wasn't easy to clean up. But for the most part, his poop was normal size, normal poop, and easy to clean up. But what kind of things would you go over? What is triggering his poop to not be as normal as it should be?
I mean, I have personal experience with this too. He's a really sensitive stomach. No matter when he was a puppy, if we changed anything on him, he would get like major diarrhea.
Uh-huh.
For the most part, he's always had kind of loose stool. It's never been, for the most part, for me when I walk him too, it's the same. But I also personally have experience with this. My Cavalier Prudence has a extremely sensitive stomach, and the older she gets, the worse it gets.
Uh-huh.
But it was, I mean, we're talking any tiny little change in his diet or her diet when she was a puppy.
Yeah.
Like anything, it would set it off, and it's so hard to get them back on track. Like just switching their food, that doesn't always work. And then I think people get into this like, oh, well, that didn't work, so I have to switch their food again.
Right.
And then it's just this like vicious cycle of not letting their stomach adjust to whatever it is that you are trying now.
Yeah.
The bigger problem with him really is his mom has always been extremely like on top of it, and he only gets this certain type of food, and he only gets these certain type of treats, because every time he does get something else, it upsets his stomach.
Uh-huh.
But he is a chewer and chews up everything and will eat anything on the side of the like when they're walking.
Yeah.
He loves to eat bark. And those are harder things to control.
Right. Yeah.
When they're just going out to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that we went over was sticking to a diet plan for at least a month.
Uh-huh.
I personally changed my dog's food a lot more than is even recommended by a lot of people. I did that because Prudence did have such a sensitive stomach, but I always make sure that we get through a full bag before we switch.
Right.
Unless there's something major going on.
Yeah.
Like if they're getting dehydrated from having diarrhea, then we're going to stop and think about it and talk about it.
Yeah.
And restrict treats.
Sure.
Such things like that.
Yeah.
The older Prudence gets, the more she just doesn't get anything that's not kibble.
Yeah.
Like because it just upsets her stomach at this point. And that has not been the case since she was a year old until she was about 9.
Sure.
But the older she gets, the more like she just doesn't. She gets chicken and eggs as a treat, and that's really it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think one thing that was fascinating with Shannon, some of the dogs you've had over the past 2 weeks, and just in general, I always know when people are feeding raw but not feeding raw correctly, or that they're using raw to supplement, because if a dog is truly on a raw diet and that they're digesting it properly, their poops are actually really small, and they're much more firm than even kibble poop.
and they should change to white.
Yep.
So
And so it's the people that are supplementing or adding to, the dogs aren't digesting it. I mean, you have this big pile of salad poo, and they poo like 6 times while you're out walking. And that's not healthy. That's not normal. I had another client call and said, he's pooping at least 6 to 8 times a day. And I said, well, we need to change the food, and we need to change some stuff. He should not be pooping that much. So he's not digesting it properly, and he's getting a lot of food. He's a big dog, and he's just not digesting it correctly. So we changed the food, and he's actually doing much better. But I think it's something that we don't become aware of, and just the overall health of our dogs. What are some of the things, Melissa, that you look for just out in the yard scooping poop that's concerning, or poop that's not concerning, but not normal?
Slimy, like if it's super slimy, that's concerning to me, or if there are a lot of little dollops, so you can tell like they cannot get it out, and that's concerning. Probably the most for me is smell. Like there have been a couple of dogs that I've had that their poop has smelled toxic.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I'm used to it. Like I'm not
Right.
a sensitive person when it comes to poop.
Right.
I'm talking about it, but
Yeah.
my eyes watered.
Yeah.
And I was like, something is wrong with this dog.
Yeah.
And I texted the owner. I was like, go to the vet.
Yeah.
Something is wrong with your dog,
Yeah.
because it was horrible.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of the big things. Obviously, if there's blood or too much mucus, then I am really concerned. A few dogs, the coloring has been really strange. Either too dark, then I'm like, okay, that's But I always ask the owners, what is their poop normally?
Yeah.
And then I can gauge. But I do usually add stuff to the dogs.
Yeah.
Either coconut oil or pumpkin to their food when they're at my house,
Yeah.
just because.
Yeah. It helps keep
Yeah.
them, the stress
Yeah.
part of it healthy. Yep. Michelle, what would be abnormal poop that would be non-worrisome?
Oh man. I mean, I think that it really, like Melissa said, I think it depends on the dog, first
Sure.
of all. Like
Yep.
Atlas, who was the one that was having issues, and even Prudence, when she was a puppy, it was not concerning to me that she had runny poo.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Right.
Because it was so normal for her.
Yeah.
That being said, if it was beyond just a little bit soft, of course, then it was like, okay, now we need to really think about what's going on.
Right.
So he really, I mean, on that one, I think it's 100% about the dog, and what's going on with them and how much we are feeding them. I mean, there are
Right.
definitely things that are like, that we need to change, but are they really like, oh, we have to rush them to the vet? No, there's a lot of things we don't need to rush them
Right.
to the vet for.
Right.
If they're going to the bathroom more often than you think, then it's definitely time to reevaluate what you're feeding, how much you're feeding, when you're feeding.
Yep.
And just their overall routine of the day. If your dog is outside, I mean, you're letting them out all the time, and they just think that that's what they're supposed to do when they're out
Right.
there.
Right.
Then they're going to.
Yep.
So it really, I think there's probably a mixture between, is it a health thing or is it a behavioral thing?
Yep.
Is it something we're doing?
Right.
I mean, this could vary so much.
Right.
So
Right.
much. Even the blood in the poo, sometimes that does not worry me if I know a dog is overly
Right.
stressed. If it's solid, like,
Right.
I mean, I stop and I'm concerned and I watch that dog, but I'm not going to rush them to the vet right away.
Yep. Yep. Right. What are some things that, based on the poop, behaviorally would change a poop?
Behaviorally, I mean,
Uh-huh.
well, overly stressed.
Uh-huh.
I mean, with dogs, I don't think people realize how sensitive dogs are to just even the littlest changes in our house.
Yeah.
Having work done in the backyard can totally throw your dog off, even if it's normal, even if that's like something you have going on all the time. Maybe this time they were a little bit louder than normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so. I think that the thing is you need to be aware of your dog's poo and what is normal for them on a
Right.
normal, low stress day,
Yep.
and go from there.
Yep. Yep. Melissa?
Just thinking about how I wash my dog's poop and how they change. Cooper is very like obvious with her poop. Like you can tell changes. Like it definitely
Yeah,
shows up.
yeah.
She always has diarrhea the first snowstorm.
Huh.
If there's been a break with snow,
Yeah.
and it starts snowing, she always has to go to the bathroom the night, and it's always diarrhea.
Huh.
And it's ever since she was a puppy, and we got her, and we were kind of worried, like, oh, and then we've tracked it, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
the first snowstorm of the year,
Yeah.
or if there's a long like dry period.
Sure
Enough.
Huh. Yeah.
She loves the snow,
Yeah.
and I don't know if she gets stressed
So
and
excited about the whole thing. Yeah.
but it's clockwork.
Yep.
that happens.
And even out at herding, dogs will poop at a stress, and they're just like, "Oh, I gotta poop," and I think people just think, "Oh, they must have to poop," but that's not. I don't think we as human beings are great at even ourselves and taking care of ourselves in general, and so I think people just think, "Oh, they have to poop." No, it's a stress poop. Really, they probably didn't need to poop as much as it was like, I have to poop.
Yuki, if we're playing ball outside and then we stop playing ball and it's time to come inside, she always starts squatting and acting like she needs to poop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know you're trying to poop. I don't know, stay out longer,
Yeah.
what it is, but she uses that as
Yeah.
I'm going to stay out here a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
because it's got some kind of a response of,
Because, sure
it's
enough,
going to stall you. Yeah,
I would just stop and watch her because, like, okay,
right.
poop, let's go back inside.
Right.
Now I just leave her and then she stops squatting. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'll come inside.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they do use that to their advantage.
Sure. Michelle, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I also think it's really important that people should know that not all stress is bad stress.
Right.
Prudence gets never like diarrhea, but she definitely gets like softer stool and stuff like that every time we go camping.
Yeah.
Like the second we get out of the car, she does it, and it's just because she's so excited to be
Right.
there. She, out of all of my dogs, loves camping probably the very most.
Yeah.
But it like not all stress is bad stress.
Yeah.
And that's really important to take
Right.
into consideration as well.
Yep. Shannon, give us your overall feel from dogs coming into the vet to just the overall poop topic.
think it's important to think of digestion as a process to make it be logical to you. So one part of the process is, the poo is the waste of the body. And if there's being too much waste, then they're not digesting it properly. And that could be because the food isn't formulated for the way that they digest, or they could be having a health problem. And the other thing to think about is, because it's a process, you have to wait for results on it. And it takes time to change, or time for a problem to go away. So I always wait for 24 hours to see if we have a consistent problem over time before I make a change, or go into the vet, or change the food, or, because if they're going to have, sometimes they'll just have a stress poo and they go fine, right, normal, the next poo is fine. So if it's a problem more than 24 hours, then that's when I start getting concerned, because, and even if they're sick and you feed them right away, they might go back to normal, or you might have to fast and they go back to normal. Like, it's all these decisions, right, about what's the right thing to do, which you learn over time by observing them and knowing what's going on. But it takes time for the body to digest, and you're not going to see the result of your change until later. So you have to not freak out. Like, if it doesn't change right away, you have to wait a little while for the body to get in sync with what the change is and what's going on. Right.
I think that's a really good point to also add, is people think that you feed your dog and then they poop it out half hour later, or they poop in 2 hours or whatever. Realistically, what you feed your dog in the morning is being pooped out in the afternoon, evening time. So it's a process. It's a digestive process. Food does not process that quickly, and they're using the energy, and it's breaking down, and so it's not what you fed them for dinner is what you're getting an evening poop from at all. It's what's happening earlier in the day. And so when you're thinking about, well, they just had their food, but maybe 24 hours ago they had a bone, and that upset their tummy. So, but they don't think about that. Bone is coming out sometimes 24 to 48 hours later in that process. Melissa?
And that just makes me think, like, when people freak out about the first diarrhea,
Yeah.
take it easy.
Yeah.
I actually asked a client, I'm like, have you ever had diarrhea?
Right.
And she's like, yeah. I'm like, did you go to the doctor right away? No. Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
when my dogs have diarrhea, I'm like, okay, I'll give you some pumpkin.
Right.
And if they have diarrhea for multiple days in a row,
Uh-huh.
then I'm like, okay, there is something
Right.
that could be going on.
Right.
But your dogs will
Yeah.
change. Their bodies will change. Maybe they ate a bug but you know
sure.
what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
don't freak out
Yeah.
about the first thing, because I really am a believer that when we freak out about it and we put something in, we're going to put some energy into whatever we do, and it's just going to make it worse.
Become obsessed about it.
Yeah. Like, let your dog poop in peace.
Yeah. Yep.
But still watch it.
And I agree. And I think that's, where you come from is, people, gosh, how many people have diarrhea and never go to the vet? Like 99% of people, it's normal. Sometimes you eat something that doesn't sit right. And sometimes you could be eating the same thing, and one time it doesn't sit right. It's just, you're not getting overly worked up about, Chianti right now has the most inconsistent poop because she's on antibiotics. And yeah, we had a little blood. We had a lot, it's like, let's just get over we're not rushing back into the vet. And the dogs, after they get done, walking and working in the heat, their poop isn't as normal as what normal is. So I think that you have to really think about the big picture, and also think about kind of how you handle it for yourself as well. And how you handle it, knowing that there's certain things that you got to go to the doctor for, and the majority of things that you don't when it comes to digestion.
I think that all being said, and Shannon could probably weigh in a little bit more on when you should take your dog to the vet.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything else weird going on, you probably should consider it. Like, yes, I think too many people jump the gun on this, and it's just silly. But at the same time, I don't. You know what I mean? If there's anything else going on, maybe you should stop and think, like, why is this going on, and not just be like, they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, just having straight diarrhea and giving a 24-hour time, and diarrhea, defined for me what diarrhea would be is cow pie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
if we have water diarrhea, I'm going to be much more concerned than if we have a cow pie. If they come out and they're squirting fluid, not anything that's got any kind of consistency to it, we're going to go into the vet. So, it's a good point, is there are different forms of diarrhea, and when should you go? And a cow pie, one time, see what the next one is, give it a 24-hour, period. But if it's straight water, you probably should think about other things that's going on as well.
So with Prudence having a sensitive stomach, we really, for the most part, just kind of ignore it, sadly, because it's just, we're like, oh, she probably, and she is a tricky dog, and she can get on counters even though she weighs 18 pounds. It's insane. Yep. So we always have to, we always think like, oh, what did she eat in the last couple of days and stuff like that. But Shannon brought up fasting a dog, and I think that's also kind of important to talk about. I can't do that with her because she gets sick on the other end. She'll start throwing up if I fast with her. But if Rambo ever has it, I always fast him for at least one meal. Yep. And your dog is not going to starve to death if you don't feed them one meal. Right. Like, it's just going to restart their digestive system.
Let it get cleaned out.
Yeah. And just restart everything. If that's the only thing that's going on.
Right. Any other advice, Shannon?
I just like to look for combinations of symptoms. Like if you have only diarrhea and then you wait and it's fine, nothing else is going on, then you're okay. If you're having diarrhea and throwing up, then that makes me more worried. If you're having diarrhea and your dog's not acting normal, that makes me more worried. If you have blood in the stool and your dog ate someone's shoe with a buckle on it the other day, that makes me worried. So you have to look at things as a big picture. Like, is this just a freak diarrhea, or is there other things that's going wrong here? And if there's more than one thing going wrong, then you need advice from a professional.
Yeah, and I think, most of the time it's random diarrhea that happens. And also, I've had German Shepherds here training, and, oh, geez, they're just stress balls. And so we're going to have diarrhea here, and then we're going to have diarrhea here, and then, oh, we're going to be fine for 2 days. And then, oh, gosh, we're stressed again. And so it really is important to, watch. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, there's nothing else to it other than you're just a stressed German Shepherd. And so, there's like when Prudence was here and she threw up, her poop was always normal here. And so it was like, oh, that's weird, you're throwing up, and
absolutely right. Yeah, she throws up a lot. That dog. Yeah. So it's the throwing up is also not concerning to us unless it's like gone on for a while or it's really frequent. So with her, and I think that's a great thing to say, is that you have to look at the big picture. Yep. Murphy, I think, has had diarrhea once, and like that I can remember that that was actually like more than just like, oh, your stool's a little soft. So with him, it is definitely more of a like, oh, I have to stop and think about this. Like, Rambo has honestly genuinely thrown up maybe 3 times in his entire life. So when he does, I'm like, okay, something is really like not okay with you.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not going to rush him to the vet if he throws up once, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to start observing everything that's going on with him.
Right.
So the big picture, I think, is really the best. Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely, I think that there's the smell factor, there's the appearance factor, but as trainers being out and about and cleaning up poop all the time, you definitely know what people are feeding. A lot of clients will feed the dogs carrots and it just comes out the other side. And your dog really, in general, should have 3 stool samples a day. And you should, in general, have normal formed logs. No bigger than, you shouldn't have piles. You should not have piles and piles of poop. And if you have piles and piles of poop, you're either overfeeding or the food is not correct for their digestive system at all. Anything else, Michelle?
The only other thing I was thinking about is Melissa touched on this a little bit earlier was just being aware of what your dogs are. And that we have probably more clients than not that just send their dogs outside and don't actually go and watch. And I will admit, I'm one of those people. I have a dog door, which if you've listened to any of our podcasts before, we know how much we all hate it. But I still have one and I still use it.
Yep.
But being that I have a dog door and I'm not there right now, so I don't know what they're doing right now. But on the weekends when we're home, I know exactly when they use that door.
Yeah.
I know exactly. I know Rambo uses it twice a day. He goes, and that is it. Unless we go out with him, he uses it twice a day. He goes out before he'll eat breakfast and about 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Prudence is a little bit more sporadic, and I'm sure that's because she does have a little bit weirder digestive, but it's
Right.
maybe 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Murphy, maybe once a day, honestly. Like, I think sometimes he sneaks out with Rambo and I don't really realize it, but like him on his own goes out in the afternoon, like 3-ish.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that like he ever goes outside unless we go out with him. So be aware of those things. Even if you have to open your dog's door for you, be aware how many times they're asking to go out. Even
Right.
if you don't go out and look at it every single time they
Right.
go,
Yep.
if they're asking to go out more often, maybe go out and check what's going on.
Yeah. Yep.
Like with Prudence, if I notice she's going out, and she will, when she gets an upset stomach, she'll go out and eat grass, and then she
Yeah.
throws up and stuff like that.
Right.
So at that point, we shut the dog door so she can't go out and eat, and then I start watching and noticing exactly what she's going out there to do.
Yep.
So just be aware of what's going on with your dog in that routine of going to the bathroom.
Sure.
More than going out and checking every single time.
Right.
Be
Yep.
aware of what your dog is doing and then go from there.
Yeah. Yep. Melissa, you have anything to add? So poop is something that we look at all the time, and it's something that tells us a lot about your dog. And you should have, if your dog does not have formed logs, you should start thinking about, is it the right food for your dog's digestive, or do they just need a little umph of something to help their digestive system, but the food is fine. So it's definitely something that we help with. It's something that we are really particular about. It's part of training. It's part of, us understanding the dog and the stress level that they're at versus are they healthy. And so, we can help with that if you have questions, but also just be aware that you should have normal logs most of the time.